Discovering that a wife is having an affair can be incredibly distressing and challenging for anyone involved. It's a situation filled with complex emotions, hurt, and a sense of betrayal. Armando Barone, 30, and his wife Brittany, 31, are the couple pictured here. They also have 2 daughters. Even in front of their kids, Armando abuses Brittany. Brittany is considering looking for a new partner because Armando's excruciating agony has made her question if she should end things with him. Brittany soon became friends with her 25-year-old co-worker at Telefax Medical, Jonathan Amaro. At Telefax Medical, Jonathan works as a biomedical manufacturing engineer. Along with traveling and visiting picturesque locations, he enjoys sports. He frequently shares events on social media and is a part of the hiking community. Brittany appreciated that about Jonathan. He was full of optimism and cheeriness. Thus, their chemistry and relationship developed quickly. Armando decided to check his wife's cell phone on September 19, 2020, a Saturday, for no apparent reason. His wife was having an extramarital affair, and he soon had enough proof to believe this. He was instantly disoriented and furious at learning about Jonathan. He grabbed a gun and pointed it in Brittany's mouth and started to hit her. Then he choked her until she lost consciousness, and their 9-year-old daughter witnessed that. The girl witnessed every event. Using his wife's phone, Armando pretended to be Brittany and began messaging Jonathan as payback. He made plans to meet Jonathan in a secluded park in the county of Cheshire. Unfortunately, Jonathan decided to meet after falling for Armando's lure. After bringing Brittany to see Jonathan, Armando left the kids with her mother living next to their house and said that he would simply stroll with Brittany. They arrived at the park the same as Jonathan. Armando immediately snatched Jonathan by the face and all over his body, as he assumed he was simply going to meet Brittany. And because Jonathan was unprepared, the force of his blow caused him to wobble on the ground. Armando repeatedly kicked Jonathan after he fell. Subsequently, he pointed a gun at Jonathan and instructed him to return to his car. Armando paused to consider their next course of action. Jonathan and Brittany were sitting in the car. When she saw that Armando had placed a large knife next to the vehicle, Brittany is urged by Jonathan to get the knife and use it to save them. At the time, they both understood that Armando had the ability to murder them both. Jonathan was informed by Brittany that things would only become worse if she took the knife. It is evident and disheartening that Brittany wants Jonathan to be the only one to die in that circumstance. Armando went back to his car, then he gave Brittany the gun right away and instructed her to shoot Jonathan. But even as she held the rifle, she refrained from pulling the trigger. Armando removed the gun from her hands out of frustration and rage. Rather, he gave him the command to cut Jonathan's wrists with a knife. Though it's tragic, Brittany followed Armando's instructions. After dragging Jonathan from the car, Armando gave Brittany the command to stand on Joseph's neck and choke him. And Brittany did just that once more. Armando was even more incensed at Jonathan since he survived what Brittany had done to him. Using the knife, he attacked Jonathan. Jonathan's body is completely scarred. However, Jonathan still manages to survive and yet awake. Armando therefore made the decision to shoot Jonathan 3 times to end his life. 1 in his head and twice in his chest. Armando then returned Jonathan to the car's back seat. The life-grabbing thing is still causing Brittany to hear Jonathan's moaning from pain. Brittany gets a gun from Armando, which he stuffs in her backpack. Then Armando told him to get into Jonathan's car and drive to their regular camping site. Jonathan passed away on the journey. Armando trailed closely behind Jonathan's car, using a car he just borrowed from his mother's boyfriend. On the way, they purchased a shovel, lighter fluid, cleaner, and tarp at a store. Then they went right back to the car they were driving, and talking on the phone together the whole time. Armando expressed his sadness for what he had done to Brittany. They soon arrived at the campsite in Hampshire's northern region. That's when Brittany received an order from Armando to chop off Jonathan's head. And she followed Armando's instructions right away, without hesitation. Before burying Jonathan's body, they covered it with a tarp. Thus, Armando grabbed Jonathan's phone right away and began texting his loved ones. So as to give the impression that Jonathan is still alive, Brittany called her employer at the same moment to let them know that she would be unable to report on Monday. September 21st, 2020. A span of 2 days. Co-workers were taken aback when Jonathan failed to show up. And given that Jonathan hardly ever misses work, that is uncommon. Since Saturday, he has not been in contact with his family or friends who he usually does. Jonathan's mother has reported his disappearance to the police. She was worried that her son might have suffered harm while out on hiking. Nonetheless, she observed that his hiking equipment was solely at Jonathan's home. When the police arrived at Jonathan's residence, he was nowhere to be found, and his automobile was nowhere to be seen. The cops started looking into it. They learned that there was a rumor that Jonathan and Brittany were dating after speaking with some of Jonathan's co-workers. Additionally, they observed that she did not show up to work like Jonathan did, so they began searching for Brittany. Armando tells Brittany to start texting her pals since he knows they might be looking for her. According to him, Brittany should have informed her friends that she was taking some time off to reflect. In another text, she announced to a pal that she was moving to New Mexico to begin a new life. Brittany's friends pushed her to reveal her true whereabouts, but she refused. Armando decided to go home and leave Brittany at the campsite. Left 2 guns to Brittany, and the murder weapon is one of those. In order for Brittany to defend herself against the wildlife, before he returned on Friday, he advised Brittany that it would be best to hide the body or dispose of it. And he hoped that by Friday Brittany would do everything. Brittany buried Jonathan's head right away. She destroyed all of Jonathan's possessions after cleaning his car. She then smashed all of their cell phones and included his IDs. Police call Armando because they were searching for Brittany and inquired as to whether he knew where his wife was. In response, Armando said he sent his wife for a camping trip with her friends on Sunday, which was the last time he had seen her. When some hunters went by Brittany's location the following day, September 22nd, they informed her that camping was not permitted there. And one of them reported to the New Hampshire Fish and Game Office, since they sensed something wasn't right. Brittany's whereabouts were looked into by 2 officers. Beside the car, they observed a big item covered in tarpaulin. They also saw a dragging mark on the mud. They followed that and discovered Jonathan's body covered in a tarp. Brittany only spoke the words, "I'm in big trouble." She was placed into police custody right away. Subsequently, Jonathan's body underwent an autopsy right away. Brittany was formally arrested on Thursday, September 24th, 2020. She divulged every detail he could recall and acknowledged everything. She said that Armando found out about her relationship with Jonathan. She tells the police how Armando mistreated and abused her. Brittany's black eye and burst blood vessel in her left eye are visible. In addition, she suffered head injuries, fractured teeth, nose bruises, arm bruises, and strangling marks on her neck. She was charged with 3 counts of falsifying tangible evidence in order to conceal Jonathan's body and destroy his possessions and identity. On September 25th, a day later, Armando was apprehended by the authorities as he was leaving their home with his daughter. He informed the cops that he planned to take his daughter somewhere private to inform them of the couple's intention to file for divorce. Armando was taken into custody by the police and charged with capital murder, including the charge of assaulting and threatening his wife. At first, Armando claims he is innocent and was not involved in the incident. Throughout the trial, Brittany's attorney maintained that his client was likewise a victim because Armando had threatened her and was directing her to follow instructions while brandishing a gun. Furthermore, Armando mistreated his wife. Additionally, the attorney stated that Brittany had no violent or criminal background. In fact, she informed the police everything that transpired and consented to assist them. In other words, Brittany was involved in the crime's solution. Additionally, he maintained that Brittany should live with her kids in their home and should only have electronic monitoring to keep an eye on her. Nevertheless, the prosecutor wasn't convinced, for in his opinion, she has all the chances to get away from Armando, either before or after the crime is committed. Armando would leave the knife with them and she is holding the gun already, and a gun had been in her backpack the entire time. In addition, she spent 3 hours driving a different vehicle, without Armando, to the campground. But why was she unable to contact for help? She might get the number of a passing hunter and ask for help when she was alone at the campsite. She never did anything. Brittany may still be dangerous if she were released, according to the prosecutor. Brittany argues in her defense that she could only have done that because she was terrified of her husband and also feared for her life. But ultimately, the judge disallowed Brittany's bail, siding with the prosecution. The prosecutor in court stressed how concerning it is that the body was hidden and that evidence was destroyed, adding that if those things hadn't been discovered, they might have gotten away with the crime. Since the death penalty was abolished in their state 1 year before the crime, Armando's punishment is limited to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For testifying against Armando, Brittany was given a term of 3.57 years in jail, with the possibility of parole in March 2022, and Armando was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Your support means the world to me.